Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name's Lefebvre, and by now you should know that in order to paint with watercolor, you need watercolor paint, watercolor paper, and brushes. But there are a few other necessities that I feel really benefit my watercolor practice that I wanted to share with you today. So let's jump in and see what they are. Okay, so I'm going to be going through some supplies that are necessities for me when I am painting with watercolor, but aren't necessarily watercolor supplies. So I wanted to share them with you today, and I'm curious to know which ones are yours. So I just have a journal here, my Watercolor Etcher Lab Cold Press Sketchbook, just to show you some examples of how I use some of these things. But let's jump right in. And I would say that one of my must-have necessities when I am painting, especially in a sketchbook, are my binder clips. So when I am painting in a sketchbook just like this, I often need to keep the pages open. So this is a quick little spread I did. And the way I do that is with my binder clips. They just help keep them open and flat. And I get asked about them in so many videos all the time. So these ones specifically came in a pack on Amazon. If you just look up rose gold binder clips, they will be there. They have the ones that are like these skeleton clips. They also have ones that are a bit more like solid. They have them in tons of colors, but I use them every day to hold open my journals. They are just the handiest things, and I probably couldn't go anywhere without them if I was sketching on the go. Otherwise, you're, trying to paint and hold it down, and it's just a pain in the butt. So these are definitely a necessity for me. But like I said, they have tons of other brands, other types, other looks to them. You don't have to get these ones, but a good binder clip, if you are specifically painting in a sketchbook, is a great idea. If you are painting on loose paper, obviously you don't need that, but sketchbook art, I would say most definitely it's a necessity. The second supply that I could not live without are my washi tape or my painter's tape. So this washi tape came in my subscription box with Craftimo. I know not all washi tape is made the same. There are some that don't hold to paper really well. I found that my ones from Craftimo do, but I have had some ones from like Michael's that do not stick to the paper. And the purpose of this for me is to create these really nice crisp borders. So when I'm doing a landscape painting, I will take my washi tape or my painter's tape. This painter's tape specifically is from the dollar store. I think it's $1.50. There's not really, this is the brand Duramax, but it's labeled painter's tape, and you can find it usually in the dollar store aisle where it's like tools and stuff like that. But yeah, this is great. Or washi tape if you know it's good. I use it to tape down my borders, not only because it looks nice, but if I'm painting a landscape in a journal where it's not, not a loose paper, but a paper block. So some watercolor papers come in pads, some come in sketchbooks, some come in blocks where the sides are all glued down. And what that does is it keeps the paper flat while you're painting on it. However, if you're painting on a loose sheet of paper like this, you'll know that if you try to paint a really heavy wash of watercolor or just water right to the edge, your painting starts to buckle while you're painting it, right? I mean, all paper is going to buckle a little bit unless you're painting on a block, and even sometimes it does still. But the idea is you want to be able to paint to an edge where it's not going to buckle like crazy. And this doesn't necessarily prevent it from buckling. It just helps you kind of get that nice crisp edge so you have a bit of a border so you're not painting straight to the edge and it's just not warping your paper completely. Also, the clips help with that. So a lot of the time I'll tape it down and then I will also use the clip to hold it down. Just makes a bit of a difference. If you are painting on a loose sheet, I would get some sort of like cardboard board. Actually, a lot of the backings from watercolor blocks, like this Hahnemühle one. So this is a paper block. That's almost done. But this is what I mean where it's glued down on all sides. If you do a big wash right to the edge, it's not going to buckle. But if you save the back board after, I have like a few of them where I will tape down using painter's tape or my washi tape down the paper to the board, which helps it stay flat while you are painting. A lot of people have asked me about stretching their watercolor paper or soaking the whole thing and then using that. It's not painter's tape, it's like art tape. I don't even know. I don't do that. Either way, I don't do that. I find if I tape a loose sheet down to a board like this, it holds pretty well. So this is definitely a necessity to have. I even have some that is just hanging off my desk that I used for these paintings yesterday. And this one is actually pretty sticky, and I will reuse this for another painting if it hasn't lost its stickiness too much. But this is great, and this is great. You just have to be aware of what tape you're using because you don't want a tape that is going to rip your paper. Masking tape usually would, or like, you know, like a packing clear tape. So washi tape or painter's tape. That was a long explanation, but you guys get the idea. So that is my second tool that is a must-have. My third tool that is a must-have is a pencil. Pencil sketches are always a good idea. I get asked a lot if I prefer a specific pencil. I don't. I was using dollar store pencils for the longest time. This one is a pencil from Karst Goods. I don't know if you can see that. They sent me these. I just really like them, but I don't have a specific, you know, type that I like a 5B, HB, 10B. Like, it doesn't really matter to me as long as it erases. But a pencil is a necessity. And to go along with that, an eraser, and not just any eraser, a kneaded eraser. So this is a kneaded eraser. It's great for anxiety and stress as well. I find this is something I like play with during meetings, just quietly under my desk. It's great. It's like a stress ball, but it's honestly one of the best erasers because it doesn't leave all that yucky residue after. So like you could draw and it erases really well. Doesn't leave any of those, you know, those little eraser marks. But also what you can do is instead of like erasing it completely, you can lighten your sketch just by rolling it gently, and it just lightens it for you. So I cannot go anywhere without my kneaded eraser. It is such a necessity. And then if you have a bunch of graphite on your eraser after, you just knead it on out and it's nice and clean. So necessity, pencil, and kneaded eraser. To go along with that, I know it's not necessarily something that you need for watercolor, but I use them a lot, and that is my black fine liners. So I love my ones from Craftimo. These came in my subscription boxes and in my advent calendar, I believe. But if you can't get your hands on these, the Pigma Micron pens are great as well. They're waterproof, fade proof, same kind of deal. With any kind of pen like this, I typically like to add the ink in after my drawings. They are waterproof, but I would suggest you use, or you wait a little bit before you paint over top. If it's still wet, it will smudge with any of them. So you do want to wait just like a little bit before you add water on top, but they are both waterproof. So you can paint over top of the sketch, but I tend to use them afterwards. Just for extra detail. I don't know, sometimes it's easier to do line work with a pen than it is to do with a brush. And I don't think that's cheating at all. I like adding extra detail sometimes with just my pens. And I don't think there's any harm in that. Sometimes I'll like do extra little bits of shading on things, just for fun. And it's just nice to kind of mix media as well. Anyway, it doesn't have to be just watercolor, but I always have a fine liner with me when I travel because it's just great to have. And also you can add dates and notes and stuff like that in your journals as well as you go. So that is another necessity. Another must-have for me is my Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleedproof white ink. So what is this? I get asked a lot because I do use it a lot in my videos. It is a white opaque paint that I like to use on my watercolor paintings for white opaque marks. Typically in watercolor, you try and preserve the white of the paper instead of using white paint over top. But this is just something that I really like to add on my paintings just because it adds that extra brightness. And it's just so easy to use and convenient. So you'll see me use it a lot, and I just really love this paint. It is very similar to gouache in the fact that it's opaque and it's, you know, a paint and it reactivates with water. But I just find it really convenient to use in this little jar. You don't have to squeeze it out of a tube like you do with gouache, and it just covers so much. It does come kind of, it looks, I don't know if you can see, it's like a really thick paint. Okay, it doesn't drip or anything like that. So what I like to do is I like to actually spray it down just to get a little bit of water in there. And then I will either take a toothpick or maybe a palette knife and I'll mix it up just to get it all nice and wet. It does dry out. If you've ever had one of these and you open it up and it's super crusty and dry, honestly, all you have to do is just spray it down in water, like leave a little bit of water in there and then mix it up and it's good as new. Okay, so if it's all dried out, don't worry, you can use this. And I've had this one for ages. Like look, like it's up to here still with paint, thankfully, because I can't find it anywhere near me right now. I think a couple of my American friends said that they have it on Amazon. Couldn't find it on the Canadian one, and I couldn't find it in any stores near me, but it lasts a really long time, and I just love it for extra white details and highlights. It makes such a difference, and it's just so easy to use. You open your jar, dip your paint, your brush in, and you're good to go. So this is a necessity for me as well. But if you can't get this, you could always use some sort of white gouache right out of the tube. Okay, and then the last item that is a necessity for me, and this is not necessarily something that's portable that I can take on the go, but is always at my desk and I use it very often, and that is my heat tool, my magic heat tool, which makes the drying time speed up to twice as fast because I am an impatient person. Also, these days where I'm working and filming, I tend to film like 3 to 5 tutorials in a day, and I don't always have time to wait for layers to dry. Even if I did, I probably wouldn't because I'm an impatient person. So this is just a simple craft heat tool. This brand, I got this, I want to say 8 years ago. So I don't even know where you could find it, but you don't need to have the same brand. This is nothing special. This just came from like a simple craft website back in the day, but they have them on Amazon. You look up craft heat tool, and basically it's like a low powered heat kind of hair dryer, but not a hair dryer. Don't dry your hair with this. Low powered, so it's not blowing strong air. It's just blowing hot air onto your painting. So it heats it up and dries it really, really fast. Apparently you can use a hair dryer as well on a low setting, hot setting, but like low so it doesn't blow. If you have a very wet area and you have something that's really high powered, it could blow the paint across the page, which you don't necessarily want. So it's low powered but hot, and it's nothing really special. It just has an on and off switch, no specific other heat switches or anything, just a simple old heat tool. And I originally got it for embossing back in the day when I was into making cards, and I use it every day when I am painting so I can speed up the drying time. And this is something I could not live without. So that's it. Those are all the supplies that are complete necessities for me. I'm curious to know what yours are. Some honorable mentions: a little spray bottle to spritz up your watercolors, to activate them is a good idea. For me, it doesn't feel like a necessity because I just dip my paintbrush in my water and then in the paint that I'm using. But some people really love these. I know other people love masking fluid. That's a necessity. It is great to have, but it's not something I use as often as you would think. But it's also a great tool. Anything else? I don't think that's it. But yeah, so those are my must-haves, and I would love to know what yours are in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.